Welcome back, guys, to my series of Indiana Jones reviews leading up to Dial of Destiny coming out this week. I've already covered Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now we're in the second installment in the series, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This movie came out in 1984. It's once again directed by Steven Spielberg and produced by George Lucas, with Harrison Ford reprising his role as Indiana Jones. And this movie is served as the prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, so yes, this is not a sequel. And Temple of Doom definitely had some interesting things to say, because there are a certain amount of people that like Temple of Doom, but there are a certain amount of people that really despise Temple of Doom, saying it's the worst Indiana Jones movie, with Keenan of the Crystal Skull, which I find out really ridiculous, by the way. And it's because when this movie came out, the reception of the film was very, very bad, because the kids who are watching this movie find the movie very dark and very violent. Steven Spielberg has the guts to create a new film classification rating, the PG-13 rating, which is a cool movie history fact right there. So Indiana Jones Temple of Doom is technically the black sheep of the Indiana Jones franchise, because basically this is a completely different film than the other Indiana Jones movies. You know, the rest of the Indiana Jones movies are technically treasure hunting movies. This movie is more about Indiana Jones getting into this situation and trying to get out of it. And I really appreciate Steven Spielberg for doing something completely different with this film. And guys, if you're expecting me to talk negativity about Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place here, because I adore Temple of Doom. I find Temple of Doom probably the most underrated film in the Indiana Jones series. Yes, this film is dark. This film is the most violent movie in the Indiana Jones series. But you know what? I like the film for that, because this film has a good mixture with lightheartedness, with also some dark elements, and it really works, in my opinion, for Temple of Doom. Definitely this is my least favorite in the trilogy, that is for sure. This movie had some flaws, but still, Temple of Doom was such a great time, especially on rewatch. And we know this film is going to be a completely different film than Raiders of the Lost Ark because of the title sequence alone. This movie starts with the musical sequences, and this is the first Indiana Jones movie, and the only Indiana Jones movie that uses the actual Indiana Jones font. That shows that this is definitely a completely different movie than Raiders of the Lost Ark. The opening takes place in Shanghai, where Indiana Jones tries to get this diamond artifact. We introduce a new character, Willie Scott, played by Capshaw, who is actually Steven Spielberg's wife, by the way. And the opening of this movie shows that Indiana Jones is not your typical hero, because yes, he is basically a flawed person, because he is a dick sometimes. When he tries to get this diamond artifact from the Shanghai goons, he threatens to kill Kate Capshaw just to get this item. It shows how much of a badass Indiana Jones is in this film, and we get this really fun action scene where basically Indiana Jones gets poisoned by these goons, and he tries to get the antidote while Kate Capshaw is trying to get the diamond, which causes a really fun action scene. And we get to introduce to, in my opinion, one of the best Indiana Jones sidekicks of all time, Short Round, played by Quan, which is the role that got him on the map. He just got an Oscar this year for Everything Everywhere All at Once, one of the best comeback roles he's ever done. And his acting career all started with Temple of Doom, and I gotta say, Short Round is one of the most fun characters in the Indiana Jones series. And I think Quan has a fantastic chemistry with Harrison Ford in this film. They work really well together. It shows that Indiana Jones has a bit of a heart side as well, because just the chemistry between Indiana Jones and Short Round, it's like a chemistry between a big brother and a little brother. I especially love the scene where Short Round basically accuses Indiana Jones for cheating while they're playing the card game in the jungle, while Willie is screaming her life throughout everywhere in the jungle. It just shows how great their chemistry is right there. It's fantastic in the film, and they work really well together in the film. And Quan, one of the most iconic kid performances in films, in my opinion, ever. Okie dokie, Dr. Jones, hold on to your potatoes! And I would say the first act of Temple of Doom is where the film shows a lot of exposition, but also it's action heavy. We get this fun Shanghai car chase scene, then we get this fun plane scene where Indy, Short Round, and Willie has to escape from the plane being crashed. So they use the life raft to jump out of the plane. It's just a fun freaking scene. But then we get the plot of this movie, where Indiana Jones stumbles upon this Indian village that is desperate for help. They need Indiana Jones' help to retrieve these stones that are stolen by this religious cult that also kidnapped the village's kids. And there's a Temple of Doom that's under this palace known as the Bangkok Palace. So Indiana Jones basically has to retrieve these stones and also save the village kids from becoming slaves, which we'll get back to that aspect later. And I love that this is definitely a switch for Indiana Jones in this movie. At first, he didn't really care about the village. He just wants their stones to be in a museum because he's passionate, of course, about archaeology. But you see Indiana Jones grow in this film, becoming this hero, saving the kids, and basically defeating these goons. And that's what I find very underrated about Temple of Doom. Seeing Indiana Jones as this flawed hero becoming this awesome, badass hero that cares. And I really love Harrison Ford in this film for that. His performance in this film is definitely very believable. Now, like I said in this film, the first act of this film was fun, with exposition heavy scenes, which is good, and also fun action scenes. But then the second half comes in, and that's when the film gets very, very thrilling. We get to see a Bangkok palace scene where basically it's a dinner scene. Everyone in this movie is eating disgusting things like monkey brains, bugs, freaking eyeball soups. It's very disgusting. And we got some new creatures in this film. You know, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, we have snakes. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? In this movie, we have bugs, and man, just the scene where Short Round accidentally settles the booby traps, and Indiana Jones and Short Round are trapped, basically getting squashed by one of the booby traps, with Willie basically have to overcome her fear for bugs. That scene, man, makes me hate bugs, honestly. But it's still a hilarious scene, where Willie is basically scared of bugs, thinking she's gonna die, but of course Indiana Jones and Short Round are close to being dead and begging her to pull the lever. We are going to die! Such a fun scene, and then we get to see the Temple of Doom stuff. That's what I actually liked about this movie also, is that this movie takes place basically in one location. It's definitely a smaller scope movie than Raiders of the Lost Ark. The second half of this movie takes place in the Temple of Doom, where we follow this religious cult that uses human sacrificing to make them invincible. And we get to introduce to Mola Ram, and I think he's one of the most intimidating villains that I've seen in the Indiana Jones movies. Straight away when he reaches into this guy's stomach and pulls his heart out, that is when this film becomes the most violent film and the most darkest film in the Indiana Jones series. And I can understand why people are very controversial about those bits. Because yes, this is very dark for kids, and I would say the PG-13 rating is a great idea. There are a lot of dark and disturbing shit that happens in this movie. Indiana Jones gets whipped, Short Round gets whipped, you get to see these guys whipping kids in this movie. It's just dark as shit, especially on rewatch. It's definitely a film that is as dark as I remembered it being. And we see Indiana Jones become evil at one point. It's just so thrilling. That's what I liked about Temple of Doom. The first act was just fun, but the second act of this film was so freaking thrilling. But thrilling in the most fun way possible, because this film does a great job of balancing lightheartedness with some humor, with some really dark moments. And I would say the action in Temple of Doom is also a lot of freaking fun. I mentioned most of the action in the first half, but the second half had the most fun action scenes. Like, we get this intense action scene where Indiana Jones is fighting this big goon, while there's the prince out there using a voodoo version of Indiana Jones, which is a very intense scene, and Short Round has to save Indiana Jones for basically getting voodooed. That's such a fun scene, and Short Round, man, he kicks ass in that scene. And of course, every Indiana Jones movie has an iconic chase scene. We get the iconic truck chase scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. This movie, we get the mine chase scene. And that mine chase scene was so much fun in this film, where basically they have to overcome the obstacles in that mine chase while the goons are after them. It's just a fun ass scene. And then we get to, of course, in my opinion, my favorite action scene in this film, the rope bridge scene. Oh my god, is he nuts? He don't nuts. He's crazy. And yes, Harrison Ford looks so freaking jacked in that scene. Like, this is definitely the most ripped he's ever been in the Indiana Jones franchise.
All around, prepare to meet Kali in hell. Oh, what are you doing?
Where he basically breaks the bridge, trying to basically avoid falling into a river full of alligators, and he basically fighting off Mola Ram. It's such a fun scene, and that's the thing about Temple of Doom. This is the most fun in the Indiana Jones series. You know, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a great film with The Last Crusade. I would say Temple of Doom is just the fun one in the series that is great on rewatch. And I think this movie has not much credit that it deserves. Even Steven Spielberg himself didn't like this movie, and I think he's definitely discrediting himself, because Temple of Doom should get more praise than it actually is, because I love Temple of Doom. I grew up with Temple of Doom, and it always holds a special place in my heart. But does this movie have problems? Yes, it's not as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark for sure. I would say the character of Willie Scott played by Capshaw, I would agree with people that she is a useless character in this movie. Comparing to Mary Ann as a love interest, at least she does stuff in Raiders of the Lost Ark. In Temple of Doom, all she does in this film is scream for her life, whinging in this film, and basically doesn't do much in this film except getting into trouble. She's definitely a damsel in distress in this film. A couple things she does in the film: she pulls the lever and she punches a guy in the minecart chase. That is it. The only scene I like from her is that campout scene, where everything she sees, she screams at, basically. The biggest thing that's troubling her is the noise. I thought that scene is still funny to this day, with, of course, the accusing cheating scene. But overall, Willie Scott, I find her my least favourite love interest in the Indiana Jones series. Kate Capshaw is not bad in the film, it's just the way her character is presented in the film, and good on her for marrying Spielberg because he's definitely a legend. Also, the Sacred Stones in this movie, I just thought it's okay. I didn't find it the most memorable artifact in the Indiana Jones series. It's more about Indiana Jones saving this village than the stones, so I didn't find the stones all that interesting in this film. Overall, guys, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is like the black sheep of the Indiana Jones trilogy, and I wish this movie got more credit than it deserves, because Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom always holds a special place in my heart. This is definitely the funnest movie in the Indiana Jones series. It has some fun action scenes. Indiana Jones is awesome, short round being one of the best Indiana Jones sidekicks of all time. This movie balanced lightheartedness with dark and violent stuff very, very well. Steven Spielberg should definitely not discredit himself for this movie, because just because of the violence and stuff does not mean this movie is not bad, because this movie is awesome in my personal opinion. It definitely is my least out of the trilogy. I find Willie Scott pretty useless in the film, and the stones aren't that interesting, but this is definitely a thrilling movie in the Indiana Jones series, and definitely the most darkest, but it always holds a special place in my heart. It's definitely the most rewatchable Indiana Jones movie that I've seen in the trilogy. I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom an A-. So guys, that is my review for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Look forward to my review next for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Man, I'm excited to review that movie. So guys, let me know in the comments below. Do you like Temple of Doom, or do you hate Temple of Doom? Let me know down in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts on this movie, because this movie is very divisive. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep in contact with me. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and whoosh, have a nice day.